Hello, and welcome again. Now, it's been a long time since I've done a video upload, as I'm sure most of you have known, and this one is going to be a little bit off the cuff. Simply put, new job, moving, whole bunch of stuff's happening in my life. Can't get too into it, but I will say that it seems like the turbulent times for me are over, but the turbulent times for everybody else seem to just keep on going on. So, the title of this video probably clued you into exactly what I'm going to be talking about, and I'm probably going to make quite a few videos on this topic, but for now, I just want to point out one thing in particular. These riots and the declaration of an autonomous zone that has seceded from the United States is taxpayer funded. Now I'm going to say that again in case that needs to be said again, because it really should be said many, many times, loudly and often and truthfully, that the CHAZ or CHOP autonomous zone is currently taxpayer funded. Your tax dollars, if you are a United States citizen, are going into funding people making their own autonomous state within the borders of the United States of America. Now, no one, I hear you ask, and no one will respond to you. But Mr. No One, what do you mean that my tax dollars are going to fund it? Is this some sort of conspiracy theory? Well, no. No, it is not. I know. It's not a conspiracy theory. Your tax dollars are going to it because these people, the communists that are running the autonomous zone, simply put, are incompetent in the extreme. In the time that they have taken over these city blocks, they have abolished the police in their area, effectively. And what that's done is that it's caused robbery, assault, burglary, rape, all of that to skyrocket. So clearly, their ideal of a policeless world is simply not working. But no one, I hear you ask. How are my tax dollars supporting that? Well, it's simple. They also need food, like every human being. They require food, and judging by that disaster of the farm they set up, they're not equipped to get it themselves. That's where you come in, taxpayer. You see, these people, despite the fact that they are disobeying the law, that they claim to be a separate entity to the United States of America, they're being fed by you. Relief rations are being flown in to the CHAZ Autonomous Zone to keep these people fed, alive, and healthy, and kicking. And most importantly, very energetic and dangerous. Simply put, your tax dollars are keeping them fed. Your tax dollars are funding an enemy state that borders the United States of America. But why? It's entirely possible to see it happening. But why would the United States government do this? That's a good question. And there's a couple of different answers. The first answer might be pity. They're United States citizens, of course. They deserve despite the fact that they're traitors, effectively, but they're human beings. They deserve the same rights as everybody, right? Which is to not starve, and they're our neighbors. But we didn't do the same thing for other people that were more deserving. There are still people in our own country that are going hungry, that are not being fed. I used to work for Meals on Wheels. I used to work for FEMA. I used to work for a couple of different disaster relief programs, some private, some state-funded. And I can tell you right now, there are plenty of hungry people in America that need the help, that aren't criminals, that aren't traitors, that aren't violent communist revolutionaries. And yet, they're the ones who get all the attention. Why? I personally do not really have an answer for you. I wish I did, but I can speculate. All of these areas appear to be heavily Democrat-controlled areas. All of these areas are apparently the spots where racism is just the absolute worst. The worst it's been, well, if they can be believed, worst it's ever been since the Jim Crow era. Well, the Jim Crow era was certainly a shameful era of American history. And we are properly embarrassed by it. And we have moved on and have attempted to move on since then. But there's an election coming up. And of course, if there's an election coming up, then we can't have people thinking for themselves, and we can't have people thinking clearly. And the best way to get people to stop thinking clearly is to make them panic. You make them panic by giving them a threat. You make them panic by giving them something dangerous that's right next door. The CHAZ autonomous zone, which apparently COVID is just leaving alone. After all these people running around without masks, assaulting people in broad daylight, we don't see a peep from the mainstream media regarding how dangerous that is. But you walking your dog at a park? Ooh, no can do. That is just too much. A step too far. But the simple fact of the matter is, this CHAZ thing is being allowed to continue. Now, unfortunately for current President of the United States, Mr. Trump, who's still a very interesting figure, I don't necessarily like him, but he's interesting. So, no matter what he does, he loses. If he sends the army in, he's a dictator. He's a brutal, absolutely authoritarian monster. But if he allows the CHAZ Autonomous Zone to keep going, then he's weak. So what should he do? What indeed should he do? There are no good answers. He has been trapped by circumstance or by political opponents. The only thing that I can say for certain is that all of these areas that people are complaining about are hotbeds of racism and crimes against humanity and other such, well, simply put, ugly things about the human species. They all happen in areas that have been run and controlled by establishment Democrats for several decades at least. So the CHAZ Autonomous Zones. I will get into them more. But for now, that's just going to be my introduction to the problem. Hell of an introduction. Hell of a problem. Well, thank you for listening in. And remember, listen to no one.